What is this?
Let me say good afternoon to everyone. I certainly want to thank everyone for being present, and you're going to be hearing from another number of people that are standing with us today. Certainly want to acknowledge the Mayor Pro Tem, Helen Cohen, who you'll be hearing from shortly, and Councilmember, do I see Councilmember Jack Christie?
He's behind you there. He's right here.
Councilmember Jack Christie, State Representative Jean Wu, and of course the DA is here, District Attorney Kim Ogg, and you'll be hearing from a number of these individuals very, very shortly. Thank you for being here today to recognize the start of Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October. This is commemorated nationally every year, and it's important that we pause today to talk about how we can prevent domestic violence and help get the victims out of harm's way. I also want to acknowledge Councilmember Carlos Cisneros, who has joined us. I want to recognize, of course, again, Mayor Pro Tem Ellen Cohen, City Council members, HPD Chief Art Acevedo, District Attorney Kim Ogg, and Emily Dawn Whitehurst, President and CEO of the Houston Area's Women's Center. The Mayor Pro Tem is a former president and CEO of the Houston Area Women's Center, and this is a topic that's very near and dear to her. Domestic violence is an issue that rips apart families and can forever change, and in some cases, end the lives of women, children, in many cases, men. And as a city, Houston is confronting domestic violence and doing what is necessary to prevent it, support survivors, and hold the perpetrators, the ones doing the abuse, accountable to the fullest extent of the law. It's something that we're facing in Houston, but let me just say it's almost something that's being faced in every municipality in the land. Keep in mind, not all domestic violence cases are reported because victims are too often afraid to step forward. Other times, sadly, they do not survive and cannot speak for themselves. And I want to mention briefly some of the numbers over the past few years. Domestic violence-related incidents reported to HPD so far in 2018, 20,651 domestic violence-related incidents have been reported to HPD. That is a lot. That's already higher than the numbers reported in 2017, and that was about 19,761 incidents, and in 2016, 19,287 incidents. In 2015, the number was 18,969 incidents. In terms of the murder rate attributable to domestic violence, that number is also very shocking and disappointing. In 2018, the number is now year-to-date 35. In 2017, the number was 31. In 2016, the number was 38. And in 2015, the number was 48. I want to commend the work Chief Acevedo and his department are doing to investigate and reduce the number of incidents. But I also want to focus on those who are helping the survivors. In a minute, we'll hear from the CEO and president of the Houston Area Women's Center. And so far in 2018, the Houston Health Department has screened 1,027 clients for intimate partner violence. The Houston Health Department has also connected 39 clients to resources such as local shelters, counseling, and legal services. The city is approaching this holistically through support networks, law enforcement, and the criminal justice system. In fact, it will take the whole city operating as a community to address this situation. And today we're sending a message that Houston does not tolerate domestic violence, not in the month of October, and quite frankly, not in any month in the year. I'm asking everyone to take a pledge to stop domestic violence. Report it when you see it. And if you know someone is being abused, help them. And if you know someone who is an abuser, report them to our authorities. Help victims of domestic violence before it is too late. And at this point in time, let me take the opportunity to bring to the podium Ellen Cohen, the Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Houston. Ellen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. And not to take away from the incredible drama of domestic violence, it also happens to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The reason I bring that up is I'm a 49-year survivor of breast cancer. There's a disproportionate number of women who die from breast cancer that are also victims of domestic violence because their partners will not allow them or encourage them to see a doctor when they first find a lump. So it's a very dramatic month in that regard. It's my pleasure to present this proclamation to the Houston Area Women's Center. If you'll join me, Emily, I appreciate it. Whereas since being founded by a group of dedicated volunteers in 1977, the Houston Area Women's Center has helped survivors of domestic and sexual violence restore hope and find healing. And whereas every year the Houston Area Women's Center serves nearly 56,000 adults and children through its programs, and an additional 36,000 adults and children through its education and prevention initiatives, on any given day, more than 110 people call the Houston Area Women's Center 24-hour hotlines. And whereas on October 2nd, 2018, the Houston Area Women's Center will encourage the entire community to join forces to end domestic violence by wearing purple in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, the City of Houston commends the Houston Area Women's Center for their leadership and extends best wishes for the successful observance of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Mayor?
And therefore I, Sylvester Turner, Mayor of the City of Houston, hereby proudly proclaim the month of October 2018 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Houston. Wear Purple Day. Thank you for the work that you all are doing at Houston Area Women's Center. Thank you, thank you.
And now I'd like to call upon Emily Dawn Whitehurst, President and CEO of the Houston Area Women's Center.
Thank you. I would like to thank Mayor Turner and Mayor Pro Tem Ellen Cohen for their leadership in convening this press conference and for raising awareness about domestic violence and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Mayor Pro Tem, it is an honor to stand in your shoes as the President and CEO of the Houston Area Women's Center. Dare I say they are large, fabulous, dramatically daunting, some days, shoes to fill, and I really do hope to make you proud. I really do. I want to thank you, Chief Acevedo, Attorney Kim Mogg, thank you so much for being here. We can't end domestic violence without our strategic partners. I know we have some here also who provide direct services, so thank you very much for being here. For 41 years, the Houston Area Women's Center has been here for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, and we will be here until the violence stops. Ending domestic violence is not a task we can accomplish alone, and we are so thankful that all of you here, and for those of you in Houston who can care about this issue, are willing to stand up and be supportive of survivors. This month, I would ask that we remember that domestic violence is not a closed-door issue. It spills out from behind bedroom doors, flooding into our communities, our businesses, and our schools. Violence makes ripples wherever it is found. According to the Texas Council on Family Violence, 1 in 3 Texans experience some form of domestic violence in their lifetime. Each of those survivors has a role in their communities. They have friends, they have families, they have co-workers, people who know and care for them. Each of those connections is affected by the violence that their abuser inflicts. That is more than a ripple. It is a wave. National estimates place the cost of intimate partner violence to exceed $8.3 billion per year and 80 million days of paid work. And when the abuser takes the life of the person they target, that wave leaves loss and devastation behind that cannot be undone. I would ask that we remember this month that the most dangerous time for a survivor is when she or he decides to end the relationship or leave the abuse. I'd like us to really think about that. It's when she resists, when she asserts herself, when she says enough is enough, that she experiences the greatest threat of violence, which is why it is so critical that the Houston Area Women's Center is there to work with survivors, to answer their calls, to help them develop a safety plan, to trust them to determine the best time to leave an abusive relationship. We must listen to, trust, and empower survivors and help them to get the support they need when they decide it's time to leave. Finally, I would like to ask you to believe that we can end domestic violence, that we can work together until we no longer have to have these press conferences. I've only been on the job 2 months, and I'm asking you to put me out of a job. How ironic is that? Our primary prevention teams work in schools, communities, with businesses. We trained 1,700 police officers this past year. We want the violence to stop, and we need your help. Thanks.
Thank you.
At this time, let me call on Chief Art Acevedo for remarks.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and all of our partners for being up here. You know, domestic violence is something that is impacting our community every day, and I think that how we treat women, children, and the elderly says a lot about our community, and I'm really proud to stand here with the mayor and the Mayor Pro Tem, a council, and a community that really says that domestic violence just simply is not acceptable. It's important to note that as we talk about these statistics, that the crimes that are most underreported crimes in society are domestic violence and sexual abuse. They're not reported in a timely manner, if at all. A lot of times the victims are made to believe that it's their fault, and I'm proud that we're living in a city where our elected officials and our partners at the DA's office and beyond create safe spaces for the victims, and most importantly, we start with the mindset that we believe the victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse, and we take it from there. So far this year, we've had, like the mayor talked about, 35 family violence homicides in our city. That's 35 families who have been, who have had a loved one, a life taken. 24 were intimate partners, 7 were other family members, and 4 were child abuse cases. As the mayor said, in 2018 so far, we've had 23,166 cases that have been reported. It's really important to let this community know that, unlike years past, we made a decision in Harris County and the City of Houston with the support of Mayor Turner and with the DA, where one of the things that we noticed is we'd be going to these, I noticed going out on patrols, I still go out on patrol, is that despite the size of the city, there were too many cases where we were going to these reports of domestic violence and no one went to jail. And so we made a decision to re-up our training to our police officers. We gave them actual checklists, little cards that they carried. We talked to the DA's office, and we changed policy that when there was a rejection for the arrest at the scene, that a supervisor had to get involved with the Houston Police Department. And the way that we did that is because our officers know that it matters enough to us when there's an allegation of domestic violence, an outcry of domestic violence. Matters enough for us to call a sergeant, and the sergeant comes to the scene, and the sergeant makes an assessment, and the sergeant then calls the DA's office. What we've noticed is the arrests have gone up. And we really believe that by having this policy, that night, that moment, we know one thing: nobody died. Nobody dies because of our failure to arrest. And lastly, from a restorative justice standpoint and from a standpoint of bringing safety, relative safety, and restoring a family, by making these arrests, it's not about putting people behind bars forever, but maybe it's about changing behavior. And behavior can't change until people sometimes are forced to change that behavior. And that's why I'm glad that, again, Mayor, with your leadership and the partners of the DA's office, we believe that this strategy ultimately is going to save lives. So proud to wear this purple with the rest of us up here. Right, Mayor? Here we go. And let's not make it a monthly event. It should be a daily event where we're paying attention to these victims, and let's take these victims and make them survivors. So I look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Chief. Now at this time, let me call on the Harris County District Attorney, Kim Ogg.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Well, just like in Law and Order, part 2 of the chief's story is this. We are a data-driven district attorney's office, and what that means is that we look at numbers of cases, and we file about 8,000 domestic violence cases a year. You can see that's a smaller number than the number reported. We're trying to close that gap, and we didn't really understand why that gap existed. And we found that each of our policies sort of allowed for people to put the decision more on the victim at the scene, which is a lot of pressure on her to say he should go to jail right now. And so as a system, the police officers and the district attorneys answering the phone or reviewing the cases at intake are now charged with arresting and charging that night whenever possible, regardless of what the victim wants. And I need to explain that a little bit. You'll hear me talk and stump for diversion in many cases. And just because a batterer goes to jail doesn't mean that we're going to give him a criminal record or her a criminal record that lasts forever. But what it does mean is that that victim will be out of danger that night because a perpetrator has gone to jail and we have filed a charge. And we do that. We now are encouraging officers and trying to provide them with the education and the tools that we prosecutors need to take that case forward, even when the victim is being pressured by the domestic partner to drop the charge, because often the batterer is the sole breadwinner in the house. The victim is dependent upon the partner who batters. And there are a number of pressures that come to bear, both social and familial, that just place the victim in an unfair position that we don't see in other types of cases. And so by arming police officers with more information about what to look for, and by taking our protective order program, which is a cultural outreach program, into the community. We started that after Harvey so that women could get protection then in their own neighborhood without having to get on a bus or find childcare. They could go in their area and apply for a protective order. We've shown that reporting is increasing. This is good. We do believe survivors, and while every case requires investigation and corroboration, that's what the police are now gathering instantly at the scene, and that are now available as evidence to justices and to magistrates who have to make a decision about a protective order. So we're gathering evidence exclusive of the victim's testimony that will allow us to move forward on these cases. Why? Because data shows that our murder rate of about a fourth to a third is being driven by domestic violence homicides. And it's not, of course, just in the city of Houston. It's all the surrounding municipalities that make up Harris County. So with that critical information, Chief Acevedo and I both reformed internal policies to ensure that our staff know that domestic violence prosecution is important to us, not for scalps on the belt, but to literally save lives. Because the data shows us domestic violence is costing too many lives. So it is my pleasure to be here as a guest of the mayor and to be part of a partnership with all of these professionals who could each write their own book. They're almost all experts here on domestic violence and what can and should be done about it. And together, we are working to end the scourge of domestic violence. We see a connection to mass murders at times. We've seen a connection to greater sexual abuse at times. We've seen police officers killed responding to domestic violence. And so all of these factors, which are data, are being considered and being used to craft better, more victim-friendly, restorative justice and reform-minded changes to our criminal justice system that at the end of the day make us safer. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And now let me call on Dr. Nasrak Amin with the Legal Services and Education of Daya.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all of you for being who are here, who believe in the mission of ending domestic violence. Thank you so much. I'm a senior director for DAIA, and for the past 22 years, we are serving South Asian survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault survivors who are living in the Houston area and the surrounding areas. DAIA with AFDA and Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council are sponsoring the Interfaith Advisory Council's event, an event of remembrance, caring, and hope at 6:15 p.m. on Monday, October 15, in front of the Houston City Hall. I would like to recognize our advisory council members who are here, Amy Smith with HCDVCC, and Elsa from the Galveston, Houston, and Marie from AFTA. This multi-faith vigil is a reverent memory of domestic violence victims and in celebration of survivors.
Ask them to stand up for they. You can come join us.
And this is the flyer, and we have some of it with us, and we can always email you. Faith leaders from all the Houston major religions will be joining and reading the names of the victims who have lost their lives in Houston this year. And we request you, all of you, to join this event and commemorate the Domestic Violence Awareness Month and stand against domestic violence and say no. Thank you so much. Yes, on October 15th, Monday at 6:15. And we have the flyers with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amin. Now we'll take questions, and feel free to ask any of the participants any questions that you may have.
Again, and the years, how they've ticked up. That's pretty dramatic stuff.
The question was to repeat the numbers again that I cited in my presentation. Okay. So far in 2018, there were 20,651 domestic violence-related incidents that have been reported to HPD. And in 2017, that number was 19,761. And in 2016, that number was 19,287. And in 2015, the number was 18,969. In terms of Houston murders attributable to domestic violence, as of this year, year to date, as of now, in 2018, it's been 35. 2017, it was 31. 2016 was 38. And in 2015, it was 48. Let me just say, if it's just one, it's one too many. Okay. Any other questions? Well, let me tell you. Then feel free to talk to any of these individuals up here. I certainly want to thank you for coming. Bear in mind, this is a month of October, Domestic Violence Month, and it's also Breast Cancer Month, all in one. But quite frankly, the emphasis is 12 months out of the year. Okay? Thank you so very much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all.